it's a miracle. It actually is, if you think about it. I mean, you can't figure it out. Just the fact that it works, well, how does that happen? And that's what we're going to talk about. It said the definition of miracle. It says an unusual or wonderful event that is believed to be caused by the power of God. There are the full definition. It goes on. It's an extraordinary event manifesting divine intervention, an extremely outstanding or unusual event, thing, or accomplishment. The Christian scientists, they've got just a little bit of a different take on it. They say it's a divinely natural phenomena experienced humanly as the fulfillment of spiritual law. Extraordinary events seem to be originating from supernatural power. This belief in miracles exists in all cultures and nearly all religions. The Upanishads assert that the experience of religious insight and the transformation that causes is the only miracle worth considering. But popular Hinduism attributes miraculous powers to the yogis. Confucianism is like the one that has very little room for miracles. Taoism, mingled with Chinese folk religion, has produced a rich crop of miracles. And the Buddha depreciated his own miraculous powers as devoid of spiritual significance. Accounts of a miraculous birth and life later woven into his legend, he had none of it. Miracles were taken for granted throughout the Hebrew Scriptures. They weren't, by the way, the word miracle, it didn't appear till the 12th century. It's a Middle English word. It comes from a Latin word that came before it, but they didn't use that word originally. But these miracles were taken for granted. They, in the Hebrew Scriptures, it seems pretty clear that they kind of expected God to be like active in the world, doing these miraculous things. The New Testament records these miracles of healing, and I've got a list here. I printed a list this morning, and to be scholarly about the whole thing, I looked for the miracles. There's actually 37 miracles attributed to Jesus in the New Testament. 37 of them. But there are only a few. Not half of that were actually in multiple Gospels. So the leper being healed, though, is very interesting. One of the first ones happened in Capernaum. In Matthew, Mark, and Luke, there's this account of the leper being healed. Now this, and around here we don't see any lepers. It really still is a problem in some parts of the world. But this would have been like the biggest miracle that you could possibly imagine at the time, because this was like totally hopeless. If someone had leprosy, it was like you just put them away, you stayed away from them, you sent them off, somewhere where they could hang out with other lepers, and that was it. You just washed your hands of it, literally, right? You don't want to have anything to do with them whatsoever. So this miracle is a huge thing, and not related in any other material that we can find that this kind of a thing ever happened. So Jesus heals this leper, and of course what Jesus said about these healings was he always said, when people would comment on oh, how wonderful and all of this, and he says, it is not I that doeth the work, but the Father within. He told people when he healed them, go forth from here, don't tell anybody. Now, why do you think he told people not to tell anybody? I mean, look, we can't prove any, there's no, we're dealing with things that happened 2,000 years ago. There's no way that we can prove that any one of these things happened. But the thing about it is, when it appears in multiple Gospels, which were written in separate places by separate groups of people, that gives you a lot, that something happened. Something occurred when you see it multiply attested like this. So, one of the things is, have you ever had something like kind of strange happen to you, and you think that it might have some kind of supernatural quality to it, and then you may go share it with someone else, and they start telling you all the reasons why that couldn't possibly be true. That's why Jesus told people don't tell anybody. He didn't want any, well, he said he had some sayings that he used. Don't cast your pearls before swine. Now, he wasn't actually calling people who were skeptical swine. He was making the point that you don't throw pearls down before someone who does not know the value of them. It wasn't really like an insult. Well, kind of. You didn't want to take it that way. The idea is that when something miraculous happens to you, when you begin to share it with people, some people will go right along with you, and they may put a whole different meaning on it than what you put on it. But other people are going to discount it. They're going to argue about it. They're going to and perhaps change your mind. So Peter's mother-in-law was healed. Again, 3 Gospels. The paralytic healed, 3 Gospels. The man with the withered hand, 3 Gospels. Here, 5,000 miraculously fed. 4. This is the one that people really want to argue with. How does he feed 5,000 people with a couple loaves and some fish, couple fish, right? Well, there is some, because it's in 4 Gospels, this really says something miraculous really did happen there. When you think about the situation, what was going on, people were coming together they were gathering together. Whether it's 5,000 or not, it's not really important. What many people say is that the miracle that really occurred there was that Jesus and his disciples triggered the generosity in the other people who were gathered there. That by them making the example of taking the small bit of food that they had brought with them and dividing it, that everyone else did the same. Now you can believe that he just manifested all those loaves and fishes out of the air. I'm not trying to make fun of it or anything like that. But I actually think I like the idea better. That what really happened was that the people were able to open their hearts enough to share what they had with everybody else. Well, there's a bunch of them in here. The 2 blind beggars restored to sight, that's in 3. Malchus had his ear cut off. And Jesus put his ear back on. 4 Gospels related. We didn't know he was a seamstress too. All right, so a miracle. So these examples of miracles are something that seems to be outside of normal everyday experience, a divine intervention, and so sometimes we like the idea of a miracle when we need one. If something's going wrong in our life and we are praying for divine intervention, we're hoping for a miracle. We probably really don't believe we're going to get one, but we're hoping for one. Whether or not we receive the miracle has everything to do with if we are willing and open and ready to receive the miracle. If we have closed our mind to the idea that anything could change or heal this situation, it's very unlikely that it's going to happen. And if something miraculous does begin to happen, our own disbelief will kind of put a halt to it. And we will not be able to receive the good that we were wanting. So, a wonderful event, a wonderful, unusual event caused by the power of God. Here's what Course in Miracles says about miracles. It says a miracle is a correction. A miracle is a correction. It does not create nor really change anything at all. It merely looks on devastation and reminds the mind that what it sees is false. So it starts right off saying, here's what a miracle does. It changes the way you see what's happening in front of you right now. It reminds you that as it says, the devastation, whatever bad thing seems to be in front of you, that in spirit it is not real. That it is not really happening. Now again, this is important. It's not denial. It is actually happening in your perception. But it reminds you that your perception is flawed. It undoes error, but does not attempt to go beyond perception. So actually what a miracle is this device that is available to us to change the way we see. It does not exceed the function of forgiveness. So what a miracle is a miracle is the direct result of forgiveness. When forgiveness occurs, a change in perception happens, which is that miraculous thing, which we see the thing differently. It stays within the limits of time meaning linear time. Yet it paves the way for the return of timelessness. That actual existence is very, very fleeting of to actually really be in the present moment, the holy instant, as the Course says. And it paves the way for love's awakening. For fear must slip away under the gentle remedy it brings. A miracle contains the gift of grace, for it is given and received as one. So here's this very important principle, that it's a simultaneous thing, that when we forgive, when we allow ourselves to forget the offense, whatever it may be, we have given a gift of a miracle and received it at the same time. So it's not even, here is where time's kind of suspended in this action of forgiveness, is that we receive the gift we give actually at the same time. Now, the other thing that the Course says about giving and receiving is that you have to have something before you can give it. But it must be yours already before you can even start this process. So when that saying that we've heard many times that it is more blessed to give than to receive, well, in order to give whatever it was that you gave that was so blessed, you had to have received it first. You had to have had it, right? But the idea is that it is more blessed to give than to take. That's really what that saying means. Well, I mean, that's what it means to me. You can take your own meaning out of it. So this idea of giving and receiving being a reciprocal event that always goes together. And the only reason it doesn't go together is if I have ulterior motives in my giving. Because then what I get, sometimes, is what my ulterior motive was. Sometimes I don't even get that. But if I don't, if I can release those motives, then this thing is a continual flow of love that occurs between us. Contains the gift of grace. It illustrates the law of truth that the world does not obey because the world fails entirely to understand its ways. A miracle inverts perception, which was upside down before. And when it says that perception was upside down, it's saying, for comic book people, bizarro world. That we're living in we're opposite world, where what we perceive is really the opposite of what's happening in spirit. Now, when I say that, I mean when we have perceptions of fear. This is important to clarify that. So, a miracle inverts perception, which was upside down before, and thus it ends the strange distortions that were manifest. Now is perception open to the truth. Now is forgiveness seen as justified. Forgiveness is the home of miracles. The eyes of Christ deliver them as they look upon, to all they look upon in mercy and in love. Perception stands corrected in his sight. So here is this idea that the Christ, and you can certainly think about that as Jesus, but you can also think about it in the way that Paul talked about when he said, Christ in you, your hope of glory. You can think about that this Christ presence is actually within you, and that is the mind that was in Christ Jesus. That what we want to do is attempt to see in that same way. Well, you probably see a bumper sticker somewhere. It says, what would Jesus do? Or there's that other one, who would Jesus bomb? That was one that I saw the other day. What would Jesus do, right? And so you get the idea of this, having this Christ mindset, and to see what would Jesus do in what we think when we look, when we read. What he would do is extend forgiveness. What he would do is he would extend love. What he would do is, as these 37 miracles here, he would extend healing. So this mind that was in Christ Jesus is in you. We're just not as good at it. We're distracted by the things of the world. And what we want to do is to bring our attention back to that, and that's what the miracle does. So it says, perception stands corrected in his sight, and what was meant to curse has come to bless. So any problem that happens during the day, if we can turn around and see it with the eyes of Christ, that thing that we thought was a curse becomes a blessing. So everything, multiple times the Course says that everything that happens to us is a gift from God if we can just shift our perception. Not just a gift, but a lesson. A lesson so that we don't have to repeat the painful thing again. The miracle is at first taken on faith. Because to ask for it implies that the mind is ready to conceive of what it cannot see and does not understand. So the miracle comes by faith, but by asking. So we actually have to get quiet and make some kind of an attempt within us to ask for this healing. And so that implies willingness. It implies, and it actually implies that we have just a little bit of belief, maybe, that this situation, whatever it may be, could be healed for us. Yet faith will bring its witness to show that what it rested on is really there. So what faith rests on is the rock of God, right? This is what faith rests on that many times we cannot see. And once having a little bit of success, in the scene before us changing from one of fear and anger into one of at least connection, if not that full feeling and experience of love. So the miracle then will justify your faith in it. And the miracle then, it would rest on a world more real than what you saw before, a world redeemed from what you thought was there. So here is the thing. Here is our responsibility in this. And I tweeted some things yesterday about the fact that when I find fault, when I'm looking for fault in myself and in others, it is an attack on all of us. When I look for fault, I'm looking to blame. That's a fear thought. That's an anger thought. That's a thought that these errors, that these mistakes are indelible stains upon the soul, which they are not. So, but there's a difference between fault and responsibility. I don't want to find fault. I want to stop. But I don't want to find fault, but I do find fault. So here's the idea of forgiveness. When I find fault, I need to forgive it. Because the difference between fault and responsibility is I get to decide what I think. I get to decide what I do next. That's my responsibility. The mistake that I made, the next thing is, it is my responsibility to help correct the mistake. Not to sit and stew about the fault. Alternately blaming myself, and then when that becomes too painful, to blame you. But to say, I'm responsible for my life, I'm responsible for the way I think, let me see it differently. Let me see that there is a way out of this if I rest on my faith. I'm going to save that last piece, and if any of you know it, it's fantastic. I'm going to tell another secret story. I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to risk something. I've never done this before with a group this large. I've told a few people. I had a problem. I had an anger problem for a long time. And I could get, that's